Probably you have had but never used it before, or you have some ideas and you want to know more, or you already use it and then you want to have more idea about it, or you're just here for free food. Whichever way, we are here for you throughout the whole period and throughout the whole way. So, a little bit of who I am. I am Fortune by name, and also privileged to be able to run the community with some great minds as well. They have been the backbone of the community since day one, and sincere appreciation to all of them. Big down call right now. And also, I am into pen testing and a bit of mobile app um, testing, and then I'm planning on going into reverse engineering, but that might not happen. But then we see how it goes. Okay. Good evening once again to everyone that is joining in right now. So today we're discussing about the Linux and the Windows operating system. So we'll first start with the Linux operating system, and then we'll move over to the Windows operating system. So before we jump right in, basically these are the two major operating systems. Should I say two major operating systems now? We actually have three. We have the Windows, we have the Mac, and we have the Linux, right? But it surprise you that the Linux operating system is mostly or is widely used than even the Windows system that most of you claim are being used nowadays. Because we'll be seeing further into this class um, the various sectors or the various areas in which this Linux operating system has been of huge impact. And we'll be dealing a bit into the Windows operating system. We'll be touching more on the command line interface, since most of you are used to the graphical user interface, and a few of you are actually aware of the command line interface. So we'll be treating that in a bit also, and then we'll be looking at what is similarities between this Linux and the Windows operating system when it comes to the command line interface. We'll be looking at PowerShell, which is installed on your Windows operating system. So you will see that the PowerShell and the Linux CLI, they actually work, should I say, closely related to each other. Like some of the commands that you'll be input, they are close or almost the same to what works for the Linux operating system. And so why are you here? Probably you've never heard of Linux, or you love Mac OS or the Windows, or probably you have heard but never used it before, right? Or you have some ideas and you want to know more, or you already use it and then you want to have more idea about it, or you're just here for free food. Whichever way, we are here for you throughout the whole period and throughout the whole way. So why Linux and where is it used? So when you look at Linux, you realize that it's an open source operating system, right? It has been around for um quite some time. It's not just a new operating system like most of you know. It's been around for a long period of time. It's open source. That means when I mean open source, you can actually take this operating system, edit it to your own will or to your own desire. There's no subscription, there's no payment of probably um payment of the source code and all that. So this Linux also is used in most supercomputers or clusters. It's majorly the backbone of the internet. It is actually present everywhere, both in cloud platforms. It is used for research and all that. So to show you how wide, so moving forward, and like I said earlier on, it is actually open source. That means it is free. Me as a user, I can have access to the source code of the Linux operating system, and then if I'm not happy with some features that are on the operating system, what do? I can change it I literally have full control over my computer and device with minimal space, right? So, for instance, I don't like the way the GUI is, that's the graphical user interfaces. I can go to the source code, edit this or that, and then reinstall it on my system. So that is to show you the importance of open source tools or systems. Unlike the Windows is not open source. You have to pay for some license keys to be able to unlock your system. That's why sometimes when you're trying to install the Windows operating system, they'll ask you for the key. And some of us just end up cracking it, right? Which is not great and which is not advisable. But what can you do when most of these subscription keys are actually expensive? You end up purchasing cracked versions of these. You can also see that this Linux is actually used in most of the supercomputers that the world has running right now. The top 500 supercomputers running in the world all run based off Linux. And to show you the key importance of this Linux operating system for a for the top 500 supercomputers to be running is to show you the wealth or the weight at which this Linux operating system is being used in our day-to-day activities. Most of your Android devices run off Linux system, so that you should note. So if you for instance are questioning yourself if you've actually used a Linux system, just know that yeah, you're currently holding one, and that is your Android device. So it's present in your smart TVs, in your 3D printers, in your backbone of the internet. It's literally the backbone of the internet. So if you don't know Linux, you're literally lost, or should I say cut off from this whole system of interconnected networks, if that is even allowed. So moving forward, uh, Linux also is an essential part of data science, machine learning, and deep learning. So that's why you see most of these professionals online, probably on Twitter or LinkedIn, or where you get your information from, you realize that they keep mentioning learn Linux over and over again. That's because this this is an essential operating system for most of the services running over the internet nowadays. So what is Linux? We have been saying that since morning. It's an open source operating system of the Unix family. Actually came from the Unix family. If I'm to go down the history lane, you'd realize that it was a 200 level student that came up with the idea, and then he reached out to his professor, and his professor actually graded that idea as useless, and then he took up the project, and then this is what is more widely used now, right? That is Linus Torvalds, right? If I'm not mistaken the name right now. So um it's very similar to Unix. So that is why I said um, it's from the family of Unix. But Unix is not open source, while Linux is open source. So you see from the name Unix, Linux, it's kind of similar. But the difference is that one is open source, while the other is not open source. And then m- moving forward, we see that we have one Linux and different distributions. So you might have heard something like Kali Linux, might have had something like Parrot OS, might have had something like the Red Hat, might have had Ubuntu, might have had Arch Linux, you might have heard about Mint Linux. These are all under the distribution of the Linux operating system. These are just, should I say, modifications of this operating system. And the widely used ones are under the Debian. That is where we have the Kali, the Ubuntu. If I'm not mistaken, I think Parrot is under Debian, but I stand corrected. And then the Red Hat, they have their own operating system being designed by them. Then we have the Slackware. which they have their own operating system as well that are being designed by these people. So looking at the Linux operating system, we have what they call the shell, or we call the shell. And then what is this shell? Um, Part of the operating system user interact with, right? And this shell actually passes the user command to the kernel, which is the core of the operating system. So if you look at the structure of the operating system of a Linux system, realize that the kernel is actually um just on top of the hardware. So after the hardware, we have the kernel. Then after the kernel comes what we call the shell. And the shell is where most of this user interaction happens. And then we have multiple shell. We have the bash shell. We have the TCSH shell, which are the most popular used. We have the other shell. We have the ZAC, right? ZSH, right? We have the CHAs, we have the mush shell rather. But we'll be using the bash shell, because that is actually the I use Kali Linux, right? So we'll be using the bash shell today. And if you're confused about bash is the programming language. So we'll be discussing on Python and the bash programming language next week. And we'll be talking about the networking aspect of this whole tutorial next week. And networking is actually one of the core important in the cybersecurity. Without networking, there was no cybersecurity. And without cybersecurity, then how will you save online, right? So there are actually many ways to accomplish the task. You can pick and choose which one you like the most. So now let's um deal a bit with the practical aspect of why we are here. So now, going over to your start menu, we'll first deal with the Windows command line interface, and then we'll get ourselves familiar um with it a bit before we move to the Linux and how to install our operating system, probably on a virtual machine, or if you want to do a boot. So so this is your command line, or like most of you know it to be your command prompt on your Windows system. And I don't know if you have your system there with you, but it will be awesome if you can run with the speed that I would be going with, because I don't want to keep us here waiting for too long, so that the thing doesn't get bored, or boring rather. So I'll just give you guys some minutes to come up or open your command prompt so that we'll just work together. And you can also open your PowerShell, because we'll be working with the PowerShell as well. Okay. So now, if you're to work with your PowerShell, the first command anyone should know, I will actually send the command list to the group, that is the Hacker Use group, later after the video. So the first command, whether you're running Windows or you're running Linux, is the print working directory, that is the PWD. This command actually tells you what directory you're currently on. So in case you switch directory to your upper directory, printing your working directory will show you the path in which you are. For this Windows user, we can see that we're on our C drive as the users, right? Okay, so before we go ahead, there are different commands that can be used using the PowerShell, but the mostly used ones are the PWD, the CD, the LS, the MKDR, that is the make directory. We have the remove directory, we have the to show hidden directory and hidden files and all that. So these are the mostly used command line tools that we'll be using. And not to bore you too much with a lot of um, instructions or command prompts, I would just be keeping it short and simple. So the first, after running your print working directory, the next command that should come to anybody's mind is let me even see what are being listed in the current working directory that I am working with. So like I said earlier on, I was like our pwd is used to print our working directory, right? And the next command that should come to our mind is the ls command. So what this ls command does is that it lists all the files in this present working directory that is under our C drive, because our user now under our C drive. And we can see from here that we're given the modification type, the last time this file was written to or from, and the length of the name. We're given all the information over here. And then we can see from over here that we have just two full directories, or like most of you know, folders. We have two folders over here. Okay, so we can see from over here, as we were saying, that we have the modification type, um the um the directories are currently under this our part, that is our user part. We can see that we have the HPLite book, and then we have the public directories. We can, how do we know it's directory? Because we can see from over here that we have D, and we have D down here, and we have R, that is for read. So D is for read, sorry, R is for read, D is for directory, X is for execute, W is to write into the folder or the path that you're talking about. So for instance, the next command that should come to mind is how do I change my directory from one directory to the other? So the command that we use is the cd command, and this cd command is just simple, is just simply to change directory forward or backward. So for instance, if we're trying to move to our public directory, that is our directory listed as public, the command line um command we use is cd, that is to change directory, and then we insert our public, and then we hit enter on that, and then we print our working directory like I said earlier on using the pwd, and then we realize that we're in the part of the users public. So, and we're currently on two different parts. We are on our users, you are inside the users directory of the public. So how did we know that? We use the pwd, which as we mentioned earlier on, print working directory pwd ls to list all the files in the directory, cd to change directory. So now, for instance, let's see what is inside this our public folder or directory rather. So we can see from here that from here we can see it's even written directory of the user public. You can see that we have the modification type like we saw in this previous one of the users. You can see it repeated down here. You can see the modification type, the last write time, the length name, and all. So we can see that from inside this directory, that is using our PowerShell command line interface. Instead, we have document, download music, pictures, and videos. And for instance, let's say we want to, because all this from our modification type, you can see that these are directories. This D are known as directories, while these R are known as to write into it. So For instance, let's try and change directory into the document. So you can see um that we have ourselves in the document. So now remember that we went from here, we changed our directory into the public directory, and then from the public directory we found out that we have our modification type, our last time written, our length of name, and we see that from over here, that is documents download. And now we are presently in inside the directory of the directory of directories, right? So now we are 3 directory forward from where we were when we started. And for instance, let's say we want to list the files inside this our documents directory. We see inside this directory we have Adobe, we have soft touch, and we have these files written inside our directory. And we can see from here that they are all modified as directories, and there is no executable file or any other file written over here. Okay, so that is that for our 3 commands that we have listed so far. That is the print working directory, the change directory, and then the list command that was written. So now let's say for instance we want to write, for instance we want to write into a directory, or want to create our own directory. So the command that will be used, we're still dealing with the Windows command line, and like I said, um most of us are aware of the graphical user interface of the Windows system, while a few or none or some of us are aware of this fast way of dealing with your stuff using the command line. But that is why we are here, to actually present it to you guys. um so let's use the make directory, that is mkdir, and let's make a directory called okay, and then you can see from over here that the directory has been made. That is the mkdir used as a short form of make directory. Of then after you insert your make directory, the next thing to put is the name of what you want to put in the directory. So you can see from over here that the directory has been made, and like we used in that time to change directory, we use the cd um hacker is, and then to list, we realize that there's no file written inside this directory. So now we have gone through some commands. It's nice for us to just recap on what we have done. We spoke about the print working directory, I've spoken about the change directory, I've spoken about our listing command, and we have spoken about um the make directory, right? So now we did all this using our PowerShell. So what if we want to use our command prompt? So now using our command prompt, um to check the list in this directory, we use the command known as dir. So this will show us um all the folders, or let's say now directories inside this user HP Elite book X360. So going back to the PowerShell, we realize that this our HP Elite book was written here. Uh, so we can change our directory into this and realize that we have the same thing printed over here, that is printed over here as well. So Um, I know it might feel like a lot at this moment, but as we progress and as we move forward, it would become clearer to us. Sorry, 1 minute. So, um, that is just to show you the common difference between these two different command line utility in the Windows operating system. So, for instance, if you want to, let's say, delete a file from this your Windows system using the command line, the command that we use is sorry, if you want to cipher a text just using the command line, the command that is being used is known as the cipher. So this will cipher out the text that you want to use to convert, that is from the plain text onto the ciphertext. So, ciphertext is just decrypted plain text. So, for instance, if you don't want to go through the stress, you can just use this cipher a command line utility to actually perform that. So that is for the cipher. So if you want to do file compare, probably you want to compare two files, use the command line known as fc. So this fc is known as file compare. So you can use this command to identify differences in text between two files. It's particularly used for writers and programmers trying to find small changes between two versions of a file. Simply type the fc and then the directory path while the command name, sorry, the file name rather, of the two files you want to compare. And then you can also extend the command in several ways, typing /b, which compares the binary output, /c, which disregards the case of the text in comparison, or -l, which disregards the which compares the ASCII text which are known as the plain text. So we'll be dealing more on the networking later on, but for now, for instance, if I want to check my IP address on my operating system, we use the command ipconfig. So this will print out your IP address, your network gateway, and this command actually relays the IP address that your computer is currently using. But however, um if you are behind the router, like most computers today, you would instead receive the local network area of such routers. So still, ipconfig is useful because of its extension, and you can use release followed by ipconfig or /renew, which can force your Windows PC into asking for a new IP address, which is useful. So you can use ipconfig/renew. So this forces your Windows PC into asking for a new IP address, which is useful if your computer claims one isn't available to you. So that is for the renew. So if you want to, let's say you want to refresh your DNS address, you can use ipconfig slash flush DNS. So this command, what it does is that it's used to refresh your DNS address, and then this command that I just mentioned, that is ipconfig. Remember I spoke about the /release /new /flush DNS. These are great if the Windows network troubleshooter actually chokes, and then which happens more often. So another networking command that you can run through your command line interface is known as the net start. The net start. Okay. And then entering the command netstart -an will actually provide you with a list of currently open ports and related IP address. You can actually run that on your own system. I will not be running that on my own for security reasons and all that. And the netstart -an will provide you with a list of currently open ports and related IP addresses. And then this command will also tell you what state is in, whether it is listening or whether it is established or whether it is closed. I feel like I'm taking a networking class here, but more on networking will be treated um next week. But this is just an introduction to the command line interface and some of the commands that are being used. And this command will actually, it will also tell you what state the port is, whether it is listening, established or closed. And this is a great command for you when you're trying to troubleshoot devices connected to your PC, or when you fear a Trojan infected your system, you're trying to locate a malicious connection. So another networking command that we can run through the command line interface is the ping command. And what does this ping command do? The ping command, um sometimes when you're trying to access a website, right, you need to know whether or not packets are making it to a specific network device. That is where this ping actually comes in. Let us know if our connection to google.com is really should we say up, or if it's really going through. So this ping command, for instance, let's try and run um ping google.com. So like I said, okay, so like I said, it is used to know whether or not packets are making it to a specific networked device. And then typing the ping command followed by the IP address um or the domain name, um that is the web domain. We need a series of tests. So like what we just did over here, it showed us that it's replying from this to that. Okay, so the ping command is another great networking tool. Um, so now let's move on to another command that is used in our that we can run through the Windows CLI. That is our path ping. So to know if the command you typed is actually on your operating system, you can just type the command and then it will show you the usage and the options that you have. So now, like this path ping is another command that we can run um through the command line interface. And then this is actually a more advanced version of the ping command that we did earlier on. And that is useful if there are multiple routers between PC and the device you are testing. So like ping, you use this command by typing this path ping, right, followed by the IP address. But unlike ping, path ping also relays some information about the router and route the test packets. That is it actually give information about the route the test packets take. And that is that for the path ping. I know it's a bit, might be a bit confusing, a bit, you know, but like I said earlier on, you would get it with time. So now another command that we can run, another networking command that we can run aside the ping, the path ping and all that is our trace sat, and this trace sat command is similar to the path ping once again. And then typing this followed by the IP address or the domain name you like to trace, you would receive information about each step in the route between your PC and the target. And then unlike the path ping, however, this trace sat also tracks how much time, that is in milliseconds, each hop between servers or devices take. So another useful command for managing and tracking for managing and sorry, 1 minute. So another um useful command for managing and tracking how your computer uses energy is our power CFG. Okay, not coming up over here. Um, so this power CFG let's use slash a. Okay, cool. So this power CFG is a very useful command for managing and tracking your own computer use energy. You can use the computer you can use this command um to actually hibernate off your system. So you can run this command so like they said, some commands need administrator and privileges before it can be executed, and we need to elevate our privilege. So elevating our privilege is just like moving one step upward. So it's just similar as saying the sudo privilege in our Linux operating system. So that's there was a lot that you can do with this power CFG. That is a few ones that I would be sharing now. So you can use the from your command line, you can shut down your PC. So it was actually this command was actually introduced in the Windows 8, and then Windows 8 introduced the shutdown command that is used to shut down your computer. This is of course redundant with the already easily accessed shutdown button that you can use. But running the shutdown part R command, you can use it to restart your PC and then launch the advanced start option. So imagine if you want to start the advanced start option of your PC, you can run shutdown slash R. So from over here, from your terminal also, you can run. Let me see something like that. So like we did with this our PowerShell, we can change the directory above us using the cd double dash. So you can either write for instance, let's list directories that are here. So you can either write this, that is the cd, then the name of the directory you want to change to, or you can just move one step backward by using your double stop to take you one step backward. So now listing the files here, we can see that we have these two files, which is the same thing we saw when we started using the PowerShell. So you see that there was a similarity between all this. So you can for instance, imagine if you want to automatically scan and repair um tools that but imagine if you want to find corrupt or missing files in your system. you can use the command sfc. So what this sfc does, that is the system file checker. You would need it, you will need to run this command prompt with administrative privilege, and then you can run the system file check slash scan now. So this would find corrupt or missing file in your system, and it will automatically replace them with the cached copy kept by the Windows for the. So there are some temporary files kept by the Windows system that are being cached for reasons like this, in case of files that are being corrupted or missing. So there are other commands that we can run. We can run the chk, dsk. You can run these two. Windows automatically marks your drive for a diagnostic check. That is the disk check. Totally runs it for the disk check scan when symptoms indicate that a local drive has bad sectors, probably lost the clusters or other logical or physical errors. And if you suspect your hard drive is failing, you can manually initiate a scan, and the basic command is this our check disk, in short of chk dsk, and then the parts that you want to scan, that is, you want to scan probably for the C drive, or for the D drive, or for the E drive. And then if you add some other parameters like the F, R, X, or B, um this will this will also fix errors, recover data, um for the slash F to fix the error. For the slash X, you can use this to you can use all this command R, X, B, C. You can use it to fix error, recover data, dismantle the drive, or clear the list of bad sectors. You know, you can use this to just do your stuffs on your command line. So there are other commands like the format command, the prompt command. So for instance, just if you want to clear all what you have been doing since, running the cls command will actually clear all what you're doing. So if you want to know, let me see. So like the PowerShell, if you want to know who you are as a user on the system, you would run the command who am I, and this who am I will actually run the command, and then you see that this is my system name. And same thing you can run over here, but from over here you run what they call system info. So this system info will give you information. There are a lot of commands that can be run, but this is the few that will be treating under the Windows CLI using our command prompt or our Windows PowerShell. So now moving on to the Linux operating system, will be we'll be working with a virtual machine for reason best known to most of us, because if we want to do our boot, um necessary care are actually needed to ensure that um you don't do the wrong thing. So to install a VirtualBox, going over to the virtualbox.org, it will bring you to a welcome page. So you can decide to use a VirtualBox or a VMware, or a VMware. But I'll be using a VirtualBox for today. So let me go back. Okay, all right. So like I said earlier on, going over to our virtualbox.org and then clicking download. So what this does is that it shows you the latest version of the VirtualBox, which is 6.1.34, and then it will ask you for the platform in which you want to install this. And since we are working with our Windows OS, clicking on the Windows OS down here will automatically begin the download process. But I have it installed already on my system, so I won't be downloading it again. So aside from that, the operating system that we'll be using today will be the Kali Linux um, OS. So you can either use the Kali Linux, or you can decide to use the Parrot OS. Parrot OS is it actually has cool tools as well as the Kali Linux industry standard operating system. This is not cool. This is so cool. So it has most of the tools that you'll be needing. You can run it on your Android device, but running it on the Android device, it has specifications to device it can run. It doesn't just run on anyhow system. So so you can download it, right? So let's allow that to boot it for a moment. Why, if you want to use the Parrot OS, you can just download it from over here. They have partners from Linode, Hack the Box, and they also have cool interface. And it's very friendly and lightweight. Um, okay, this is coming up. So while we are waiting to come up, let's take a brief on the Unix and the Linux file system. So because we need to understand the file system and the way they are being structured to understand it. So I found this very cool material from tutorials points online, and let's try and go through it. So a file system is a logical collection of file on a partition or a disk, right? And then a partition is a container for information and can span an entire hard drive if desired. So your hard drive have various partition which usually contains only one file system, such as the slash file system or other containing the home file system, right? So we have the directory structures, and it's when you see a directory, okay, let me see if this is up. Yeah, up. Okay, so we have the slash directory, which is the root directory. It contains other files and directories, obviously, and each file or directory is uniquely identified by its name, and the directory in which it resides and a unique identifier typically is called an inode. So by convention, the root directory has two inode number of 2. We have the lost and plus, then we have the found directory. And as an inode number of 3, inode number 0 and 1 are not used. So looking at the directory now in the description, we have the slash directory. This is the root directory which should contain only the directories needed at the top level of the file structure. We have the slash bin. Okay, this one is up. Okay, why that one is while we're waiting the network to come up. This is my Kali Linux VMware. So like I'm trying to explain what I'm saying over there. Let me try and expand this view. So now okay. So let's continue with our directories and the description. That was still talking about the file system structure of a Linux operating system. You have the slash bin. This is where the executable files are located, and then these files are available to all the users of the operating system. We have the slash dev. These are device drivers. Okay, core interface. So now you can decide where you want to host this your operating system, and then going down you would pick if it's a 32-bit system, if it's a 64-bit system. So um they would give you option for the virtual machines that you can host them on VMware or VirtualBox, but we're using the VirtualBox. Also, to show you how cool this is, for your virtual machine, you can pick if it's a 64-bit or a 32-bit that you're working with. So now we want for our virtual machine. So now we can see that they have two, that's for the VMware or for the virtual box. So you can just click here to start the download process, and then to start downloading the OVA file. It's around 3.3 gig, but will not be spending time downloading today because I have it installed already. So the installation process for your virtual box is very easy. Download it, and then for administrator, and then just click the next, and then it will open for you something like this. So you can see from over here, we have our Oracle VM VirtualBox Manager, and then we have I have my different Linux operating system hosted over here. So um okay, after your Kali Linux is downloaded, it would look something like this. To be something like this, yes. So just double clicking it would um open it up for you in your VirtualBox. So remember that we spoke about the installation on the VirtualBox, which is quite easy. So after the installation process, you will see a .ova file, and then the .ova file, double clicking it, it will open up for you, and then to just click on next. It will actually just continue the installation process for you, bringing you over to the settings screen that you can see over here. So we have the general setting, we have the system, we have the display, we have the storage, the audio, the network. So on the system, this system, you have the base memory. So you can decide which memory allocation you want to give to your system. Depends on the configuration of your system. If your system is like a 4 gig RAM system, for a virtual machine, you should give it like at least or at most 2 gig RAM of your system. But if you have like a 16 gig RAM, you can still give it like a 4 gig RAM for your virtual machine, or 8. So you dis so you select the display you want, the storage you want, and all this you can do from the settings tab. So to start it is quite easy. Going over to this button, you will see start, and then what I love doing is actually to get a snapshot of the current working process of the system, because getting a snapshot will actually help in case the system runs into issue and you're trying to go back to the previously working stage. The snapshot that you took before will help you go back to that stage. So moving forward, we are presented to our operating system, that is the Kali Linux operating system, and we let me make it full screen. Okay, so now we are inside a typical Linux environment, and then let's try and explore some of the things in this Kali Linux operating system. We have the recently used, we have all the applications listed over here. See them there a lot. We have them divided into sessions. We have the information gathering, vulnerability as analysis, web apps analysis, database assessment, password attack, wireless attack, onto report writing. We have them all listed over here. So in case you want to like do a database assessment, you can use your SQL map to work for you. So now like we we are talking about the command line interface. So we'll be doing justice to that also in this our Linux operating system. Still on our file structures, so we have the /etc folder. So this is a supervisor directory command configuration file. This configuration file valid user list, group, internet, host, where to send critical messages. So this is where the etc folder actually comes in. We have the library folder. This contains shared library files, sometimes other kernel related files. We have the boot directory which contains files for booting the system. We have the home directory which contains the home directory for users and other accounts. We have the mount directory which is actually used to mount other temporary file systems. We have the temp folder or the temp directory which hosts or holds temporary files. And we have the user directory um which can be used by many users depending on what your operating system allows. We have the um sbin directory which is usually for system administrators, and we have the /kernel which contains the kernel files. So now let's go back to our command line interface of the Kali machine. So the first thing we do to print our working directory, and what are we? We are home Kali. And first command in the PowerShell, see the same command we ran over here, and it ran. So just like the PowerShell, we ran the ls command which ran all the files that we have over here. So in this our Linux machine, to view the content in a file, you run the cat command, and then why this is sorted is due to this is actually what is inside this file sha, but the concept needs to be taken in that the cat command is used to view the content in a file. So like I said earlier on in the when we were using the PowerShell about moving backward 2 steps and then creating a working directory, you can see from over here that we are the slash. Going back, let's take a breather and let's go back to what this said. This slash, this is the root directory which contains only the directories needed at the top level of file structures. And then where are we? We're in the root file, right? And then let's list. You can see we have the /bin, the /home like we spoke about, the /library 32, the media, /root, /system. We have them all found over here. So there are some of these that will not run except you're a super user or you're an administrator. And before we go on, let's move a directory forward. Let's go to our /home, and then let's list the files. So like we did in the command in the PowerShell, to make a directory, you use the mkdir and then the file uh, and then they are telling us that permission denied. Okay. Let's so now to switch user, use the sudo su to actually switch your user for you. And then let's try and make directory again and let's see what the issue is. You can see from over here that so because we're not we didn't have the administrative privilege, that's why this error was actually prompted for us. And then we can see from over here that we have directory listed here. Then let's navigate to this directory. So we can see that we're currently in this directory called hacker. So we have looked at some commands today. We looked at the print, we looked at the list, we looked at the change directory. So now, for instance, how do we copy files or move files? Okay, let me try and move this my flag file from this my home to this my hacker directory. So what I do, um so now recall and remember that this our slash hacker directory is slash home slash hacker. So now we're trying to copy a file, right? So we use the cp command to copy. So we're copying a flag file to this directory, and then let's move over to this directory, the next list, and realize that our file is over in this new directory that we indicated over here. So that is for the copy command. So let's okay now you might be saying, okay, I don't want to copy, I want to just move it totally to this new directory. So use the mv command. So this mv command actually moves the file. So we realize that the flag command is not longer in this our slash home directory, but if we change directory to our hacker directory, realize that the file is actually there. That is the work of the move directory. So now moving a bit above from this part that we are, like we earlier mentioned, we use the cd, that is to change the directory, and then the double full stop. The double full stop is used instead of you writing the directory you want to move to a step backward. You use the double full stop and that will take you there. And then we can see that printing and working directory, that is the pwd, will show us that we're in our slash home directory. Now I've spoken about this copy command, the move command, our print working directory command, our listing command. So for instance, if there was a hidden file in this our directory, we use the ls-al or -a, and then to print out all the informations that we need, that like we saw in our PowerShell earlier on. The same thing is being brought up over here. We can see that for this first for this directory that we just created earlier on, we see that it has the directory permissions, the read permissions, the write, the execute permissions. So we can see that we are running all this as a root user. Even this our hacker directory that we created, it's actually running as a root user, and then it shows the date and the time that this directory was actually created. So now let's, we spoke about the make directory. What if we want to remove this directory? We use the remove directory command, and then this remove directory command actually removes the directory that is specified. So let's say we want to remove this directory that we just opened. Um we can use the arrow there. Okay, they say fail to remove this because directory is not empty. Okay, okay, let's so we can see from over here that when we listed out the directories, the files in this directory, you saw that we had a folder called Ace, we had files. So looking at the color pattern, we can see that this blue is mostly used when you're talking about directories. The white um, color is mostly used when you're talking about files. We have the green for executable files. So now, like once you execute this command, you see that it's turning green. So using the RMDIR, that is to remove the directory. Once you remove this directory called Ace, we run this command RMDIR and the Ace, and then let's try and list out. We realize that um it was formerly here, but after we run this command, we realize that the directory is actually gone. So we use that command to remove directories. So there are other command line, should I say, text editors, known as we have the Vim, we have Nano. So now running the Nano, it will open this text editor that you can actually type in your codes, or you can type in what you want to print out. So let's say we want to print out test nano test. So it will open a file named test for us, and then we can now write into this file called test. So remember that we're doing all this using our command line interface. So this is a great day, and then we save it using Ctrl S and Ctrl X to leave the interface. So um let's list out the files that are written over here. So we see that this is a directory, and then we can see, like I said earlier on, the color codes will tell you what type of files or folders are entailed in the current working directory. So you can see that this is a file, and then to read, we use the cat command. Like I said earlier on, we use the cat command to read, and then cat this, we see that what we typed earlier on is printed over to our screen, written this is a great day. So we are able to look at the different commands that we should get familiar with when working with our command line, and then it is important that we note all these, because from next week we'll be going into more practical session. This session today was just to introduce us to the command line interface and be able to put us through some of the mostly used command, so that we don't just treat or deal with the graphical user interface, which is actually cool, but there are some things that you just have to use your command line to actually run or perform. Like for instance, if you want to run networking command over here, you use your your if config. Remember when we spoke about our command prompt, we used the IP config to check our IP address. So same thing you can run over here. You run your if config and to show you your IP address. So all this is needed. You need to have idea of, remember we ran the ping command also, the same thing is actually done over here. So to show you that these operating systems are interconnected one way or the other, and understanding how this command line interface actually works, how they operate, will give you an edge in your learning process and your learning speed. I know it might be a lot to actually assimilate or take down today, but I'll be sharing some materials with the group, that is the Archives group, and then we can go through them during your spare time. And I'll be dropping some challenges to keep us busy pending the time we'll have the next class, that is next week Wednesday. um there will be some challenges that will be dropped in the group. So that is actually all for my presentation today, and then I would love to stop sharing my slide now. Thank you very much to all those